I think we've all been mindful that there's something moving in our nation. And depending on where you stand around the ideological spectrum, you're celebrating or mourning. But the reality is we have a new imagination of government leaders at the moment. We are seeing things and hearing discussions of a future that are about things we haven't seen before, outcomes that we have not experienced. To imagine Robert Kennedy Jr. over the health and wellness of our nation, the Doritos are disappearing from the shelves of the stores all over the country. And as remarkable as the opportunities around that may be, I have said and I will continue to say to you that I believe we need new imaginations of the people of God. That we're going to have to make responses that we have not made before. That we will have to be dependent upon God for outcomes that we have not experienced. Because if we maintain our routines and we fiercely defend the status quo and we imagine that all of the significant God business of our lives has been done, whatever advances the Lord would give to us will not be kept. It's dependent upon us. This unique experiment in self-government means the people who occupy those positions of authority are a reflection of the character of our nation. Those leaders come and go. But the tone, the policies that are established, the principles that will be brought forth are a reflection of the hearts of the people. And while I believe we've seen an expression of the mercy of God without any question, I believe for it to be extended, for it even to be maintained, requires of us something of a shift. And I'm watching people that I have known and have been acquainted with accept responsibilities and reorder their lives to step into new places. And in many respects, it seems to me at least, if those invitations were extended, that it's a great sacrifice. And so I'm asking myself the question, what sacrifices are before me? What can I do? How can I invest my time and energy in a different way so that the outcomes of what is before us would reflect God's involvement with us? And that's really the point of this talk and the one that will go with it tomorrow. They're intended to be a companion. I want to start in Exodus chapter 3. It's a very familiar chapter, I suspect, to many of us. It's Moses' recruitment. This is Moses the fugitive, not Moses the baby in a basket. This is Moses the adult who has seemingly squandered all of the unique preparation of his life. He's no longer described as the Hebrew slave who grew up in Pharaoh's palace. He's just a shepherd on the backside of the desert, and he's a fugitive. He's established a whole new life and a whole new pattern. And he sees a bush that's burning. You know the story. And he turns aside to see what it is, and God speaks to him from the bush. And we're going to read a bit of this recruitment. I'm going to suggest to you that in Moses' recruitment narrative, there is a pattern. A type is a bit more of the technical word for you and me, that God's going to demonstrate some principles about his character and how he interacts with human beings and how he interacts with his people in a broader sense that can inform our lives. That we don't just read it as a historical narrative. We don't even say we believe it's true. We believe it's intended to inform our journey through time. You see, the Bible is written as addressive literature. It's not a book from antiquity that's a collection of just a variety of literary styles, poetry and wisdom and a bit of history. It is intended, I believe, to address the lives of every generation who pick it up. And anything less than that really removes it from a place of authority. We don't read the Bible. We don't open it and sit in the seat of authority judging the Bible. We open the Bible and allow it to judge us. One posture where you sit above it and look down on it and dissect it and break it into its components and decide what you think it means makes you the authority. It's typically the academic approach. It's not evil, it just isn't transformational. When you open the Bible as if it's the authority and your determination is you will submit your will to it, that you will yield to its authority, it becomes a very profound point of transformational experience in your own journey. You don't have to ever understand everything in it to be transformed by it. You don't have to understand why ibuprofen relieves pain to get the benefit. Thank God. You had to be able to write out all the chemical equations of what happens between when you swallow it and you get the relief, we'd all have more headaches. And in the same way, it's a mistake to think you have to be able to explain everything that God says He will do. You have to believe it and yield to its authority, and you receive the benefit. But my ultimate objective is to present to you an invitation to become an agent of transformation. I believe it's very much a biblical assignment. We'll start in Exodus 3 and verse 7. The Lord said to Moses, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt, and I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I'm concerned about their suffering. So I've come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and a spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. That's an important principle. When God delivers you from a place of darkness and oppression, it's with the intent of bringing you into a better place. It's not to return you to the pattern that got you into the pit to begin with. The purpose of deliverance is to bring you to a better place. He didn't just deliver them out of Egypt and say, now, help yourselves, work it out amongst you. He delivered them out of Egypt and put them into a very rigorous training program, complete with a whole new revelation of laws and patterns of worship and responses to life, a whole new diet. That's meddling this time of the year. He established for them whole new routines of worship. He segmented them into priests and people who would care for the tabernacle. He gave them a whole new social structure, a whole new civic authority. You see, the invitations of God in our lives are not just to get us out of the dark place so we can go back and do whatever we want to do. He delivers us so that we might be submitted more fully to His authority in our lives. I think if we held that imagination in contemporary Christendom, we've lost it. We tend to think of our experience with God defines our future, our eternity, what happens to us beyond time. And the power of God to deliver us from the bondage of sin, the tyranny of sin, the addictive natures of sin, is to set us free for His purposes with our journey, with our days under the sun. Moses, I've heard the cries of my people, and I'm going to deliver them from Egyptian slavery, from bondage, and I'm going to lead them into a spacious land, a land that flows with milk and honey. If you know the rest of the story, what He didn't say to Moses, and they'll have to fight every step of the way. The land is fortified. The cities have imposing walls. They're not going to surrender. You see, the purposes of God for your life will not just surrender to you. Again, we have had a perverted gospel, or at least an incomplete gospel, that we think following conversion, we're just going to skip down the yellow brick road. Now, the goodness of God and the grace of God and the mercy of God inform our journey, but it will take a determination from us to see the purposes of God brought forth in our lives, a yielding of ourselves so that our character can be transformed more fully into the image of Jesus. See, we've been coached that the biggest expression, the greatest expression of faithfulness to the Lord is getting yourself to church. Excuse me. In some sort of a regular expression. Especially when there's like high-profile ball games. Oh, I forgive them. I promise. And the reality is the purpose of the new birth of conversion is that we might yield our lives to serve the Lord. Thank you. I think I'm okay. And we've got to be awakened to that in a whole new way. I got to go back to Moses. We'll never finish, right? And I'm going to take you the land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and all those things. In verse 9, and now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I've seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. Up to this point, Moses is all in, I think. I've seen that stuff too. I grew up there. I know it. It's awful. I'm glad you finally noticed. It's about time. It's the next sentence that changes the entire narrative and the emotion of it. He said, so now go. I'm sending you to Pharaoh. I'm sending you to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? It's a stunning change of direction. Moses objects immediately. He's a very reluctant recruit. Who am I? I tried that. My picture is in every post office in Egypt. Why should I do that? What? I'm not qualified. Now, God is going to provide Moses with instructions and equip him with everything he will need. And I think it's worth noting, we're going to walk through it just pretty briefly, but it does not alleviate his reluctance. Now, I read that and it feels very familiar to me. The places where God's invitations have come before me in my life, the real ones, I have thought, no, I don't think so. I'm good just the way I am, thank you. No, I don't think so. I don't even like those people that much. I mean, I have a whole litany of reasons I don't want to be involved. And I want to point to my credentials, my resume. I'm born again and baptized in water, and I read my Bible, and I do all this, and I do this, and so I don't have to think about that. I don't have to be engaged. And I read this narrative. Imagine if Moses had been so recalcitrant, he said, no, I'm not going. I assure you God would have delivered his people. But Moses' story would have been dramatically different. So I'm pushing it towards you because I'm going to suggest to you that God is sending you. And you, and you, and you, and you. In fact, you ought to look at the person on your right and say, I think God is sending you. Only about 6 of you moved. God is sending us. See, we're so excited. There was elation around much of the country a few weeks ago because we thought God was sending some new people someplace to do some hard things. We wanted a new direction. We wanted somebody to change course and plot a new course and secure a border and do this and do that and change this and change that. And we were happy so we could keep doing what we've been doing. Because we're pretty good. We are not the problem. We have met the problem and it's someone else. And I think we're a lot like Moses in the midst of this recruitment. God says, my people are in a mess. They're in a hard place. And Moses is going, yes, they are. And I'm going to do something about it. Good. They need somebody to do something about it. He's like all in. And then God says, I'm sending you. And you go, whoa. That is not what I meant. We know Middle Tennessee needs a little bit more Jesus. That's why we voted for those people to go bring more Jesus here. And I believe with all my heart, God has said, I'm sending you. Moses has questions, and God provides answers and resources, which Moses will most certainly need. Same chapter, verse 13, Moses says to the Lord, just suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, well, what's his name? Then what am I going to say? That's a very relevant question. Basically, he's saying, by whose authority? Do I get like a laminated ID card on a lanyard? Servant of the Most High God, leader of the former slaves of Egypt. You scan it. It'll come up in your computer. I'll have all the appropriate credentials in social media. By whose authority? Why would they believe me? Or if we said it just a slightly different way, Moses, who are you to make such statements? Why should we listen to you? See, I think all of us have this same crisis within us. Well, if I stand up and say, I don't believe that's the right way to go, I don't think that's the appropriate choice. I believe human life is sacred. I don't believe you can make a choice about terminating the life of a child. That's not a choice you have the privilege of making. When we get a little quiet because we know what the answer is, well, who are you to make that decision? Who are you to make such statements? And if we don't understand the authority that's been entrusted to us, that we're not expressing our opinions, we're reflecting the opinion of someone else, the authority that we've chosen to yield our lives to. Now, we're clever enough and intuitive enough to know that if we're not really yielding to the authority of God, that we really don't have the authority to cherry pick the places we want to. That it requires of us a commitment to increasingly yield to the Lord in our lives. And if we're more aware of our failures than we are of the deliverance and the victory and the forgiveness and the healing that God brings to us, we stay mute. By whose authority? Remember when David took lunch to his brothers in the Israelite army and he heard Goliath bellow his challenge? Remember what David said? David said, who is this Philistine to challenge the army of the living God? Who does he think? Does he know who he's challenged? Everybody else said he was challenging the armies of Saul. And this little kid shows up and he goes, wait a minute, he's called God out. So David goes to meet him. No armor, not equipped for battle. He's got a bag of rocks. Remember what Goliath said? Am I a dog that you send this boy out to meet me? I'll feed his carcass to the birds. By whose authority? Church, we have to be awakened to the authority in which we stand.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. You know the drill. Hit the bell for notifications. If you want to, leave a comment.